Hey there, welcome back to another Nomad Rundown. Today we're taking a deep dive into the Inflate tool, as well as the Crease and Pinch tools, to better understand their differences and how you can use them to make your sculpts. Let's start with a new Nomad scene and jump right into sculpting, starting with the Inflate tool. When you start to create marks with the Inflate tool, you'll notice that it feels a lot like the clay and brush tools on an initial layer pass. But when I start to emphasize these bumps I'm creating with a second pass, you'll immediately notice a difference in the surface treatment. Where the brush and clay tools built up geometry vertically, the Inflate tool builds by expanding the geometry outward. The name Inflate gives you a good visual on how the tool works. Picture that you're blowing air into your model beneath the area you sculpt, in the same way you would inflate a balloon. Once you understand this principle, you can start to visualize ways it could be used. I quite like using the Inflate tool in the same way that I would use the clay and brush tool, towards the beginning of my sculpt, where I'm looking to build the volume of my form. Just like with clay or brush, the Inflate tool is great at bulking out your shape while you're trying to find the form you're looking for. And the similarities don't end there. Looking over at the left in our Quick Access tool panel, you'll notice that we have the same selection of tools as the clay and brush tools did. We have our sub toggle, which will let us switch back and forth between additive and subtractive mark, which is set up with a keybind that I have set to pencil squeeze. You can check this in the upper binding menu here. Using this toggle, I'm able to finish building out the shape just as I did with clay and brush before. Working with the Inflate tool leaves things much more rounded than you'll find with using the other two, which can be beneficial in certain styles and applications. I like to use the Inflate tool whenever I'm creating some kind of overhang, something veiny along a surface or a sci-fi texture, and surfaces that are sort of like sockets that push inwards and have a rounded interior. One more thing to mention here is a word of caution about using it on surfaces that have already been textured. Here, I'm going to do a little bit of a speed run to just throw down some texture onto the surface to exhibit my point. Now that I have this more detailed surface, I'm going to try to build out a bit further using the Inflate. And pretty quickly, I'll regret that decision. You see, the Inflate tool behaves most similarly to the brush tool, since it expands the geometry outward based on its normal direction. When you're using the Inflate, we are literally pulling each of those normals further outwards and expanding them at their individual angles. This is what causes the breaking of your geometry, like you can see here. Each of these tiny points cannot expand any further without hitting each other. So they just collapse on top of themselves and create this total mess. So I recommend keeping your use of the Inflate tool to either the beginning stages of your sculpts or strictly to surfaces that are fairly smooth in order to retain the quality of your surface. Back at my default sphere here, let's talk about the Crease and Pinch tools, starting with the Crease tool. The Crease tool works pretty much as you would expect, pulling geometry together and pushing it inward to create these shallow valleys on the surface of your model. This is quite helpful for starting to carve out detail, where you might be creating hard edges on your surface, or emphasizing inflated forms. I often like to use the Crease tool at a larger scale, and then use the Smooth tool to soften the crease and make it more seamless with the forms around it. Just like with our other tools, the fall off of the Crease tool can be adjusted in this upper menu under Fall Off. It should be automatically set to something quite sharp, like the Power 5. This can easily be changed here to something softer, such as this one called Smoother Step. This will pull creases that have a wider area of influence. Changing this fall off can be super helpful for certain applications, but I'm going to stick with the classic here. Looking at our quick tool options on the left, you'll notice one that we haven't covered yet in our tool breakdowns, the Invert tool. This works similarly in theory to the Add Sub toggle from other tools we've covered, but in the Crease tool, it takes on a bit of a different meaning in practice. Inverting the Crease tool can give you these steep, ribbon like shapes that pull the geometry out from the surface to a sharp point, instead of creating the valleys that it defaults to. This can be especially helpful for creating hard edges and raised surface details. This toggle is also tied to the same keybind we've set before, so I can squeeze my pencil to activate and deactivate it. Moving along to the pinch tool, you may be expecting something fairly similar, but actually, the pinch tool works quite differently than the crease. They address a similar sculpting need, which is to pull the geometry closer together. We saw that the crease tool pulls the geometry closer, but also sunk it further inward to the surface. As you can see here, the pinch tool runs a similar operation, but is much less destructive to your model. It only pulls the geometry closer together, but does not push it deeper inward as much as the crease does. The pinch tool is much better at creating a finer pushing and pulling of your topology, giving you great control over the edge flow of your mesh. Let's look at a situation where this tool will come in handy. If we run a quick remesh to get really even topology across all of our surfaces, you might notice that we lost some of the detail in these creased shapes we made earlier, since the quad remesh tool made everything very uniform. Here is the perfect chance to use the pinch tool, as we go along these creases and gently pull the topology together to follow the surface details we were looking for. This is a great way to streamline your mesh and ensure that you have proper edge flow. This is an especially important factor if you're trying to move this mesh into other softwares for further sculpting. This will make for easy UV unwrapping and texture baking down the line. Looking at our quick tool panel on the left, you'll see another new toggle icon called invert. As expected, this works in a similar way to the invert on the crease tool, allowing you to spread the geometry further apart instead of pulling it closer together. Jumping back and forth between expanding and contracting, using this toggle can streamline your sculpting. In the next video, we'll be talking about one of my favorite tools, the stamp tool. This will be our big jump into the world of texturing and help you have a better understanding of building up interest in your design, as well as handling your topology with ease. Be sure to check out my breakdown of all the other tools in Nomad and my workflow walkthroughs as well. That's all for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next part. See you soon. Peace. And also subscribe and click on my other videos. Okay, bye.